Hello. I've met a lot of nice left-wing people. They want a world that is more fair, more green. Well, who doesn't? The question is, what is more fair and how do we get there? This episode is about communism, socialism, social democracy, social justice warriors, or whatever fantasy name they give themselves. Because playing with words, that's really their thing. 10 flaws of the left. Socialists and communists thrive on inequality, as it is the result of sheer coincidence or some form of injustice. And that sets the stage for victimhood, with 4 familiar players: the victim, the perpetrator, the relief worker, and the finger pointer. The weak, the vulnerable, the poor, the deprived, in other words, the substitute proletariat. That is what it is all about. And there's a ranking. At the very bottom you'll find a white man, check your privilege. At the very top you'll find a creature like a trans, pansexual, deaf, Pakistani, Muslim with Tourette's. And in their journey towards equality it is allowed to lower standards. People are discouraged from doing their best, as one Swedish lunch lady discovered when she managed to produce a healthier meal for the children at the same budget. Now, it was ruled unfair for all the other children that were not in this school, that could not have this benefit, so the standards were back at the same mediocre level. So no. This is not how it works. Who we are now is the product of our predecessors. They've worked hard for it, and it is up to us to do our best to become even better people. This is how it works. Socialists sing the International. The Soviets had Comintern to spread the proletarian paradise. As global citizens, they don't believe in borders. So don't be surprised if one of their ministers uses national tax money to rule across the borders. And people from afar are welcomed to stay in our countries and have their family follow, because the land is nobody's, so it's everyone's. So they believe. And then there's identity politics, where people feel no or less connection with their fellow citizens of the same country, but they feel they are a part of some other group, like all the women in the world, or all the gays on the planet, or the culture they originate from. So then you can see, like we saw in this country, a minister that pleads for signing of a treaty with Ukraine simply because Jews and gays in that country ask us to do so. Never mind national interests. So again, no. The countries we have currently used to be savage nature, unsuitable for living. There were people who came here, worked the land and created wealth for their children. Those are the people who live here now, with a certain culture directed at reliability and predictability, because that's what was needed in those days, back then, to survive the winter. This land is not to be given away by anyone. There's nothing as inconsistent as a socialist. They talk a big game on equality, often they forget to show any themselves. Sure, Every party has its scandals. It's just that the left presents itself as morally superior, often with staggering arrogance and lack of self-reflection. On a Labour Congress, I heard the mayor of Rotterdam, Abu Talib, explain how often he had to descend to the level of his citizens when they contact him about their troubles. He doesn't even hear it, descends. And the mayor of Nijmegen, Guusje ter Horst, in her days, she was caught behind the wheel with a glass too many, but there were no legal consequences whatsoever for Guusje. Then there's the district Amsterdam Southeast, which has been for years a Labour hotbed of corruption and missing money. And if not, Premier Wim Kok, also Labour, he complained a lot about the excessive self-enrichment of the managerial class in the industry, only to forget all about it when he joined them at the ING bank and participated in the bonus culture. He later called it a diabolical dilemma, bless his heart. And then there is left-wing crypto racism, because as an immigrant you're immediately lobbed in the category of the weak and vulnerable. It's probably assumed that you're not able to contribute anything worth mentioning to our society, and there's no place for pride, of course. The children of the left-wing elite are deprived of multicultural surroundings because they are forced to receive their education in so-called white schools. Double standards. Do as I say, don't do as I do. Left-wingers often have an underdeveloped empathy, especially rational empathy. That means they have trouble understanding what somebody else wants to achieve. And that means that they are very poor negotiators. Their wishful thinking also leaves very little room for human nature. And that could lead, for instance, further down the street here, to roundabouts where cyclists are circling in unpredictable directions. Their emotional empathy doesn't impress me either. They show themselves to be very sensitive, yet they do not connect to the feelings of other human beings. And then it can be very amusing when the left-wing elite encounters the commoners whose problems they've ignored for years. It's a disaster when they encounter psychopaths, because they will never learn. Many left-wingers believe that there's good in everyone. The mystics of the muscle. This is how Ayn Rand called these people, the left-wingers. Mystics, because what they believe they cannot explain, and for what they want to achieve they have no plan. A true left-winger cannot explain to you the workings of climate change, but will point to the authorities externalizing. How wind turbines are going to achieve energy savings, he cannot explain either. He just knows they do. The thought seems to be, I want this to be true, so it is true. And vice versa, I don't want this to be true, so it isn't true. Wishful thinking. Show such a person a wall socket with a solar cell that you can stick to the window, and he will react enthusiastically. I want this. Never giving any thought to the performance of such a product. Because although this picture is a few years old, have we ever seen this on the market? Of course not. If you have the best of intentions and your ideals are beyond reasonable doubt, sanctioned by the experts, and belong to the objectively noble truth, they deserve every chance. Is it then reasonable to still have to explain yourself? Of course not. Everybody should get with the program, or else they should be forced. Then it's time for fines, for boycotts, obligation, prohibition, social or economic outcasting, taxation, you name it. And if they still don't comply, the police has guns. Hence, mystics of the muscle and that fist that shows up everywhere. If you're throwing a party, you set the right circumstances so that everybody enjoys himself. You know, process-oriented, the female approach. Now for making decisions, for meetings, that doesn't work. I saw this at meetings of Occupy Amsterdam and the Green Left Party, where everybody was allowed to say something and nothing was accomplished. In those cases, it works better the manly way, the masculine way, goal-oriented, solution-oriented. Left-wingers. Their plans are wasteful, they don't yield much, they have serious side effects, but that's never their fault. No. They had other parties, coalition partners, or external factors. The left is not accountable. And what they believe is fluid like Barbapapa. On the one hand, they are for gay rights and women's rights. On the other hand, they want to flood the country with people who are hostile towards these rights. Basically, the left is schizophrenic. What strikes me about the left is a generally negative way of thinking. More than others, they will tell you what they do not want. The language is full of no and not. If you're not in favor of wind turbines, then that means you are in favor of dirty coal power. If you're not left-wing, then you must be right-wing. And if you're not enough against Donald Trump, then you must be in favor of Donald Trump and a racist. These people will tell you what you believe. The group that preaches tolerance shows a very poor record of it itself. Just send someone of a far-right group their way. They don't have to talk to that racist. And also within their own ranks, there's very little room for dissident opinion. There's a sanctioned set of opinions and behaviors that group members submit to, at the risk of being excommunicated. Because fear and self-censorship belong to the left, up to self-betrayal. We learned that from the Soviet Union. Tolerance is a dog that bites its own tail. Are you left-wing and still watching? You deserve a compliment. You've powered through and obviously do not belong to that group of overly sensitive, self-centered, negative people I just described. You might be right-wing. Nah, in my opinion, the opposite of left-wing is not right-wing, but just normal. Do give me your feedback, because I value truth more than being right. Thanks for watching. If you want to do me a favor, then like this video below or sign up for all new episodes.